The youth movement deal with the EU key to Brexit reset, says the Lib Dem deputy tells Starmer. I'm going to read into this exclusive from the iNews, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from iNews with the headline of the youth movement deal with the EU key to Brexit reset, says the Lib Dem deputy tells Starmer. Daisy Cooper tells the Eye that her party will work with pro-EU Labour MPs to pressure the Prime Minister into sealing an agreement with Brussels. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. So by the time you guys will see this video, the Liberal Democrats will have had their conference over the last weekend. Obviously, there'll be lots of discussions about that. They have been pretty quiet in terms of coverage and things that they've been saying lately. And I know, obviously, one of the things, obviously, the key thing from Ed Davey has been more concerned about more than anything is obviously social care. And it just seems like the only priority that the current Labour government is interested in is it comes across as just cuts here to try and fill this so-called black hole sort of thing that they've enacted. Now, for those who don't know, the youth movement deal that the EU have been trying to kind of pressurise onto Labour government, which Keir Starmer's not keen on, would allow youngsters to be able to freely travel to the EU and vice versa. But the problem is as much as it makes total sense, economically beneficiary to the education of our children and whatnot, the problem is that he's so scared of the right wing. He's scared of the right wing newspapers. He's scared of the right wing public to actually implement it, Keir Starmer. That's what I generally believe, because it is something that the next generation need. They need to have that experience, and it would make a massive difference to Britain's up and down the whole of the UK. Now, whatever Lib Dems can say, they can kind of say whatever they want here in this piece. And Daisy Cooper, who I thought especially in the debates, I thought was very, very good. She was very, very good in all the debates, actually. I don't think she had a bad performance in any of them. As the Liberal Party's deputy leader, I thought she was very, very good. But the problem is that the Lib Dems, because they didn't become the official opposition, it's very hard for them to have really much of a say. Because everything is between, once again, the Tories and Labour again. And we really want that cycle broken. And again, like I said, they haven't really had too much to say. We haven't heard a lot from the Lib Dems. So obviously it'll be interesting as time passes on what we learn from the conference and what Lib Dems' plans are and whatnot as time passes on. But let's read more into this exclusive, guys. So Liberal Democrats said they will hold Labour's feet to the fire to strike a youth mobility deal with the EU, Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper has said. Well, I'm not sure how they'll be able to do that. They can apply as much pressure as they want, but Labour has 400 MPs. And and this is the next bit, which I think is important. In an interview with the Eye ahead of this weekend's Lib Dem conference, which will have already happened by the time you see this, Ms Cooper said her party would work with pro-EU Labour MPs to pressure Keir Starmer into agreeing a deal with Brussels to allow easier migration for under-30s. I think he will get pressure, but he will not get enough pressure to push for it as much as I want to. She said that the Prime Minister was not being sufficiently ambitious in his reset of relations with Europe, and that the Lib Dems would also push the government to rejoin the Erasmus student exchange scheme. The Lib Dems go to their Brighton conference having won 72 MPs at the general election, making them the third largest party in the House of Commons in more than a century. Ms Cooper said the Lib Dems are now the real force to be reckoned with, and they will use their rebuilt clout to push Labour for closer ties with the EU. It comes as Sir Keir seeks to negotiate Britain's post-Brexit relationship with the EU to make it easier to trade with the continent. However, Brussels has made it clear that a deal on youth mobility, which would allow under-30s to move from the UK to the UK from the EU to work and study and vice versa, will be a key quid pro quo in any talks. Ms Cooper said the Prime Minister had made a good start with his reset. The music is really good because under the last Parliament, we had a sort of tweeting diplomacy of Liz Truss and Boris Johnson, which not only destroyed trust with some of our closest allies and neighbours, but actually made us a laughingstock on the international stage, she said. And she's absolutely right. When when Liz Truss was Prime Minister, when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, people were laughing at us with the leaders that we had. We were the jokes. We were the absolute jokes. However, Lib Dems want Labour to be more ambitious, she added. She went on, we think that should start, for example, with a youth mobility scheme. It exists with a lot of other countries, but it doesn't with countries in the EU. Ms Cooper, the MP for St Albans, said one of the disappointments of Brexit is that the young people have lost out on freedoms that some of us have enjoyed. To give young people back those opportunities to work and travel and to study would be a really good thing, with the EU rejoining Erasmus, another Lib Dem demanded. At a meeting between Sir Keir and the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Berlin last month, Ms Scholz said she wanted to intensify exchanges between the two countries, which had declined massively because of Brexit and the COVID-19 pandemic. EU sources have told the Eye that there will have to be movement on the totemic issue of youth mobility if the Labour leader wanted a better deal with Europe. While he has said he does not have plans for a youth mobility scheme, the Prime Minister has been careful not to rule it out. Some MPs, such as Stella Creasy, chair of Labour Movement for Europe, also want the government to strike such a deal. I'm not going to read this bit because this is from that was from the election. Asked whether the Lib Dems would work with these Labour MPs to put pressure on the Prime Minister, Ms Cooper said, "We're always prepared to work cross-party with people of all political parties where we share the same interests." And that's something that's already taking place here with the Lib Dems and Greens. There will also be cooperation. There is obviously, as I've said there on some other videos, there is cooperation about obviously the changes to be made within the political system itself. The look of the question about second jobs, the committee hearing on that does have Conservative Lib Dem as well as Labour MPs on that committee, for example, as well. So there's going to be lots of things that Lib Dems will agree with Labour MPs and whatnot. So there is always going to be cross-party cooperation, and especially when they have 71 MPs, that will definitely help them. We're always prepared to work cross-party with people of all political parties where we share the same interests. In recent years, the Lib Dems have concentrated most of their political party attacks on the Conservatives, having won 62 of the 64 new seats from the Tories at the election. The other two were taken from the SNP. And since the election, the party's dealings with Labour in Parliament have been noticeably cordial. The tone of the debate has changed significantly. It does feel like grown-ups are back in charge, Ms Cooper said. Yeah, they've not really been kind of going gun-ho at Labour. But I do think as time will go on, there will be a bit more aggression on Labour, and there needs to be, especially with the winter fuel payment recent. That was really cruel. The budget will say a lot about this Labour government as well. Asked whether Lib Dems will take a more aggressive stance towards Labour at some point, she said, "Depends what they do. We will be a constructive opposition in Parliament where we think Labour's doing the right things. We will support them. So if Labour were to agree to be mobility scheme, then we will back that. But where we think they're doing the right thing, where we're doing the wrong thing, or where they're not going far enough, then we'll say, and we'll hold their feet to the fire." With Starmer facing a decision about whether to allow Ukraine to use British Storm Shadow missile strikes targets in Russian territory, Cooper said the Lib Dems would back him if he made such a call. "Yes, we would," she said. "Putin is an aggressor. We know very clearly that he isn't just about Ukraine. If he manages to take control of Ukraine, he would keep going. This is the essential principles of underpinning living in a Western liberal democracy." Yeah, Putin will not stop after Ukraine. People think that Putin just wants Ukraine. No, it's not. It's going to go further than that. On the question of whether Lib Dems could permanently hold on to ex-Conservative blue wall seats in the south of England, Cooper said the focus is on making sure that our new MPs bed in. But she echoed Lib Dem leader Ed Davey saying the party would want to finish the job by removing the Tories from their heartlands. Yeah, I think that opportunity's missed. The problem is that the Conservatives still got a big chunk of the votes at the general election. So a lot of it was down to tactical voting. So I don't know whether they'll push out as much as they would want to push out. I mean, I appreciate that they're wanting to kick them out of the hardlands, and I would love to see nothing more than the Conservatives completely wiped out, but I think we've passed that at the moment now. The problem is people are still buying into them despite everything that's going on around the Conservatives. And a lot of seats that they got was because of tactical voting. If they don't get the tactical voting, they're going to lose a lot of seats. But it also, of course, while the Lib Dems have those seats, it's down to them to prove to the voters in those areas that they can be somebody that will make a difference in their area, in their constituency. Sorry. She said that the election, which also saw parties like the Greens and Reform UK win seats, shows Britain's two-party system is creaking at the seams and demonstrates the case for a long-term Lib Dem goal of electoral reform. There is a fundamental principle that we believe in. That is just every vote should matter, she said. The outcome of this election in particular just shows how the two-party system is breaking down, and the public are wise to it. The public knows how to play the system now. They know how to play the system, the system, and they don't like doing it. They feel like they shouldn't have to. Asked whether her commitment to work in other parties would extend to working with Nigel Farage to campaign for a proportional representation, which the Reform leader supports, Cooper says, no, not at all. So she's not. So it sounds like she's not willing to work with the Reform Party at all. We don't share value. We don't share his values whatsoever. I think he's guilty of bringing really dangerous rhetoric into our politics in this country. Excuse me. And I wouldn't be prepared to share a stage with him for the purpose of campaigning for PR. Excuse me. Apologies. I think something went down the wrong hole or something there. Interesting that she's not there. She's saying that. I'm not sure if the party are in agreement with her. Like, proportional representation needs to happen. And yes, of course, I understand that the Reform and the Nigel Farage are a dangerous party. We know that. We know it's a dangerous individual. We know their party is dangerous. We were fully aware of that. We also have to acknowledge that they have got a voter base as well behind them. Don't have to like it, but they have got a voter base behind them as well. But if it comes down to being able to work out a deal for proportional representation, the Lib Dems just flat out refuse to work with Reform to get a proportional representation deal, I would be a little bit frustrated. I can understand why they want to ignore them because they've only got 5 MPs. But yeah, I get how she feels about them. I really do, and I do too. I don't like Nigel Farage. I don't like the Reform Party. I don't think they stand for anything about British values whatsoever. I think they're in it for themselves and for their donors and their paymasters at the end of the day as well. But overall, some decent stuff here from what Daisy Cooper has said. Hopefully that the Lib Dems can make an impact. Yeah, 71 MPs is a lot. But obviously, they're only the third largest party. The Conservatives still have over 121 MPs. There's still lots of work to be done. And I really do hope that they can make an impact in the House of Parliament. But we will have to wait and see as time will pass, guys. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of the youth movement deal with key EU to Brexit, the EU key to Brexit reset? What do you make of Daisy Cooper and her as deputy leader of the Liberal Democrats so far? Or maybe you don't have an opinion at all. Let me know what your thoughts on her and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe if you haven't already, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.